Again.
Nope. It's time for Collecturbation this week. Classic record. Dokken's 1984 masterpiece, Tooth and Nail.
The interesting thing about Dokken is the original band was just called Don Dokken. He played the guitar and sang. Somehow, hanging around in Europe, Don became friends with Dieter Dierks, the famed sort of studio Svengali and the main force behind the Scorpions. Apparently, all the heavy touring had shredded Klaus Meine's voice, and he needed surgery on his vocal cords. Dokken worked with the band on the demos that would become Blackout, while Klaus healed from surgery.
And one can only assume that in exchange for this favor, Dierks helped Dokken sort of resurrect his first album, 1981's Breaking the Chains. It was re-released in 83. Some extra tracks were recorded, and the new member, George Lynch, was added. And he was already kind of a veteran of the LA scene. He had been in a band called The Boys and later Exciter. Interestingly, Lynch was also hired in 1982 to join Ozzy's band and replace Brad Gillis. The reason why Ozzy fired him is an unusual one. His hair was too short. Apparently, George Lynch had been driving trucks to make some extra money, and he had to get a haircut. So that is why Jake E. Lee got the gig, because he looked more rock and roll. So there you go.
He should have worn a wig.
Exactly. Anyway, the recording of this album was very difficult. If you read about it online, even in the early 80s, the bickering between Don Dokken and George Lynch was ever present. They apparently couldn't even be in the same studio at the same time, and a host of producers was involved, from Tom Werman to Michael Wagner, and even Roy Thomas Baker had to come in and contribute some vocal production duties. Considering all this, it's amazing how great this record sounds today. Check this song out. The song is called Don't Close Your Eyes.
If there's one album that captures the might and magic of the 80s LA rock sound, this is it. Dokken's sophomore disc brags a superb, hook-heavy collection of songs augmented by the dreamiest vocal harmonies this side of Queen, and George Lynch's endless barrage of climactic axe attacks.
They could all sing. Yep.
The give and take between Dokken and Lynch keep things incredibly fresh, avoiding the filler-esque formulas that many bands of the genre would develop. The title track is frigging D-beat.
It is. Yep.
Mick Brown hammering away in a sea of reverb. Amazing. Just when Bullets to Spare starts to run out of gas, Lynch saves it with a gorgeous melodic interlude. Dokken's striking performance in Alone Again is sideswiped by a ripping solo that ups the ante. Not to mention the wicked riffing in When Heaven Comes Down, the heaviest riff of the hair metal era? Perhaps.
While the follow-up, 85's Under Lock and Key, featured a fuller guitar sound and cleaned up Mick Brown's bass drum from hell a little bit, its track listing didn't boast the teeth of this one. Sorry about that. Anyway, so people listen to like late 80s, early 90s hair metal, and it's terrible, right? You're like, oh, who likes that stuff? The thing is, when it first was a new thing, 1984, banner year, the bands were making heavy hair records. This is one of the three. This was this one, Rats Out of the Cellar, and the first Wasp album. This stuff had teeth when it was new. It was only until later that it kind of got distilled and they all started to sound the same. Anyway.
Much hairspray.
Yeah. All three of those bands would mellow considerably over years, but the records still sound fantastic today. Listen to this one. This is a ripper. When Heaven Comes Down.
This is the Snaggletooth Rock and Roll Podcast.